Welcome to the She Will Shine podcast, where we bring you the real stories of female business owners. My name is Danielle Price and I'm the founder of She Will Shine, a supportive business network for women. It's time to give a voice to women in business and discover their journey.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the She Will Shine podcast. Today we have a very special guest. How are you, Antoanela?
I'm good, Danielle. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. Antoanela Safca is coming to us today from Dublin in Ireland and is an education-obsessed copywriter for coaches, trainers, and people who teach stuff. I love that, Antoanela. You've got a nicely defined client there.
You know, as I was saying, it kind of changes all the time, but it's a good start. I feel like I've now not expanded it, but just like, I think people that are passionate about what they do inspire me generally, and I like to work with them. And sometimes, you know, they might not be doing a course, but they really believe in what they do. Like they might be an architect or an engineer, and I just get kind of high on their passion and then they're my ideal client as well. So yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, of course it makes sense. And obviously with what you've just said, you obviously love what you're doing. Have you always had a love for writing and copywriting?
I'm so glad you asked that, because I listened to your interview with Emma recently. Emma was interviewed, Emma McMillan, and I know that you have a love for writing as well. So I felt like already connected with you because of that. So yes, I have always loved writing and reading in particular. Reading was my thing. I think I was just hiding behind, oh, well, I can't be a writer, but I am a writer. But I can't show my writing to anybody for like 30 years, you know. And I studied journalism and wrote at uni, obviously, but still couldn't really wrap my head around, you know, writing for a living. And then I worked in comms for many years, which was another way to hide kind of from your own writing. But slowly things kind of took me here, where I write for a living things that I really like, that I'm interested in, and I follow my curiosity with my writing. So that's just, like, you know, how we can be sort of mean to ourselves, but really when you stop to think about it, I'm really in a place where, you know, I wouldn't have thought 20 years ago work-wise. So yes,
that's true, that we can be like, we're our own worst critic. And it takes like, I don't think we fully ever, well, in an ideal place we would get rid of that, but there's always that little niggling voice that's going to say I'm not good enough. So I guess that's why we do what we do, and we surround ourselves with people that believe in us and support us and are passionate about what we're doing, and we can work together with them.
Yes, yeah. And it's I guess talking to other people and friends, it's good to get that perspective. Hey, wait a minute, like, don't compare yourself to the person yesterday or last week. Like, you know, think about how far you've come in, you know, in a year or 2 years or 5 years, and just like always try to keep that perspective in mind. I think that's important. And surrounding yourself with people who remind you of that.
Yes, that always
really
helps.
Helpful.
Yeah. And so I mentioned earlier, you know, you're now living in Dublin, but that wasn't always the case. We didn't meet in Dublin.
No, exactly. Gosh, I miss our real life, you know, in-person events. You're the ones you organize.
We'll come to Ireland one day. We'll get there.
You know, I'm thinking about how to make this, how to bring some of Melbourne here, apart from me. Yeah, so my partner is Irish, and we were planning to, we're both quite intrepid. And even though we have a 4-year-old, we always wanted to travel a bit more, be closer to family, I guess experience more of Europe, because we both moved quite young to Australia, and we, you know, you don't really have time to travel all around Europe when you come visit family. So we wanted to first initially take a sabbatical, which we couldn't because of COVID. And then 6 months ago, or 7 now, we sold our house and decided to move here for the foreseeable future and give it a good go, a few years. And yes, here we are. I feel like we were prepared for, I guess, a sort of hardship, you know, leaving behind friendships, connections, a routine, all the comforts that, you know, I guess Melbourne is, you know, is unique and special. and you know that. But yeah, I think like the shock of the real life experience is still kind of, you know, within us. But it is getting more interesting and better by the day. So yeah, it's I value, like the other day I came across, I think, a newsletter or something that asked, that was proposing, will you regret being here or something like that, and I felt like, no, I really don't. I think I would regret not having moved and not having, even though it's really, really difficult, challenging in many ways, this is exactly where I wanted to be, like facing this, you know, readjusting, making new friends, or trying to make new friends, and finding our place again. So yeah.
I think that's really like, it's really brave, but it's also like, you know, we all have that what if we do this and what if we do that, and so many of us don't take that step.
That's 100% it, Danielle. That's it. It's the what if. I feel like imagining myself back in Melbourne, we both really wanted to do this, and if we hadn't, you know, and it's risky, I guess, you sell your house, we don't, like here it's a whole different landscape in many ways, like with rents and everything else. But yeah, the what if, I think, would have yeah, niggled us for quite a long while. So yeah.
So you're born in Romania, is that correct?
Yes, in Romania. So I moved to Australia, I think, when I was about 21. And my accent is a bit of a mingle of, you know, I think Irish people sometimes think I sound Australian. Australians think I have a heavy accent. You know, it's just all over the place.
It's a beautiful combination.
But yes, thank you. I'm trying to learn to love it. But I spent a lot of, like, I feel like all my adult life in Australia, so it's really I could say I identify as as Australian in many ways. Yeah, so it feels like it, even though like we moved from it, like it feels like home that we might return to at some point. Yeah.
Whatever the foreseeable future holds. Yeah, beautiful.
I know.
And at the moment, you said you're living with your in-laws and you're working in their garage, which I think that's a beautiful garage right there. It's a lot nicer than what mine is, let me tell you.
Oh, it used to be. So it used to be, Irish people don't really use garages. Like as soon as they have a garage, they convert it into a room. So until we arrived, this was a room, but a kind of like a room where they put everything, all the I guess, you know, storage, I guess, room. And they've done some things with it to make it a bit more usable for us, which is really nice of them. But I'm really grateful for the room. I mean, really, at least I have a space, and I'm not working from the bedroom like my partner is. He's working from the corner of the bedroom because everyone's still working from home. So, you know, I work from strange places. From the laundry. That's what I was
going to mention, the laundry. So during the pandemic, when you were living in Melbourne, you wrote a beautiful piece about working in your laundry and owning your laundry as your space because your space was invaded by your family.
Yes. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yes, I think, I mean, I'm sure lots of people felt this, lots of people who work from home felt this invasion as much as I did, because, you know, you're used to having the place to yourself, 9 to 5 or whatever the time when the family is out. And then everyone was working from home and it doesn't feel like your workspace anymore. So I had to find a refuge, and the only space in our home in Melbourne that was, you know, I could close the door to, was the laundry. And it was, you know, like a generous laundry. So we fitted a desk in there. And it gave me so much peace, and I, for a while I hated it, but then I really learned to appreciate it, because, you know, sure, it wasn't pretty, but it gave me that quiet, and that door was really instrumental in, you know, keeping me sane. So yeah, I did write an article ode to it.
It's a beautiful piece. And it's on, is it SBS? Is that where it's on?
SBS Voices, yes.
SBS Voices. So if you want to Google Antoanela Safca and SBS Voices, you will find a beautifully written piece that I really like. It was funny because it was all during the pandemic and we can all relate. So I think it was just so instrumental in kind of voicing how we're all the people who already worked from home pre-pandemic, how we're all feeling about having suddenly these people in our spaces, like our loved ones, but still these
Yes.
people in our spaces when we crave the solitude. Like I crave my solitude during the day.
Oh my goodness. Yes, Danielle. Yes. I have to say though, I envy your beautiful working space. That's still yours, is that right?
It is. So I was a first brief period of time during the first lockdown. I let my husband have it, but then I took it back. Second lockdown, I said, no way, it's mine. You're not having it. It's for those who don't know, I work in a I call it my she shed, which is just a small bungalow type thing in my backyard. So it's only 3 or 4 meters from my back door, but just it's the door. It's having a door and being able to close it that makes all the difference.
Oh my gosh, yes. I think everyone's dreaming of a she shed or however they want to call it. That's what and something else. I feel like now the extra step is something outside the house that you can and then return into the house. Do you feel like that kind of adds some extra, I don't know, separation between the spaces, isn't it?
Yeah, it does. Like I finish work when I close the door. Like when I take those few steps into my house, it's like that's my kind of wind down. Like, yep, finished work. Off I go into the house.
Yes.
Like we used to get.
You have a commute. You have a commute, a few steps.
That's right. I used to feel it when I was in the city and I'd walk from the office to the train station coming home. That was my kind of, I'm done for the day.
Yes.
And now I have that. Yeah, it's true. And kind of it helps with the, like you said, the separation physically, but mentally as well.
I agree. Yes. I think it's something called the, excuse me, the third space. So between work and home, you need something. And normally it's a commute or something where you kind of like start unwinding and thinking, kind of like closing the loop, the sort of open tabs on your work and just preparing for family life or whatever, home means to you. So I appreciate that you have those few steps.
As soon as I open the door to the house, then it's like, Mum, where's food? What's this?
Hang on, not ready yet.
I'll walk around the block and then I'll come home.
Yeah, that's probably not a bad idea.
It's a good idea. I might try that. I'll think of you when I do. So now, as we said, you moved 6-7 months ago across to Europe. How has your business kind of transitioned with that move?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I haven't actually thought much about it, but I guess it hasn't changed much. So I guess those are the benefits of having a portable business, I suppose. Of course, I have to work sometimes strange hours, so that's probably the biggest difference. But I'm also now a bit more accessible to US clients, which I was, but I wasn't before. So I've attracted a little bit more of that. I mostly work with regular clients. And the other amazing thing, which which happens because I'm located in Ireland. So as I write, I guess, journalism and essays and things like that. So I'm now kind of launching into travel writing as well. So I'm working with some Australian editors writing articles about Ireland and now Nashville. I'm heading to Nashville next
beautiful.
week. So there's adding another dimension to my writing.
Yes, a new opportunity.
Yes. So it's really, and other than that, my copywriting clients, it's going really well. I feel like being in a different space and different location, you come up with a different perspective as well, because I think being in that space surrounded, I don't know. I mean, I still have obviously access to newsletters and emails from everybody else in sales copy, but I think even being in a different physical space can expose you to different ideas and different ways of seeing things. So I think that's helpful for my clients. And they've all been really loyal and supported me for the move as well. So that's really, really lovely. I'm so grateful.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I guess that's the beauty, isn't it, of doing, like, being a service-based business for starters, is you can move your business, like you can move your workspace, you can move your business.
Oh my gosh.
And it doesn't make that much difference to the day-to-day accessibility of clients and emails and things like that you need on a daily basis.
It really doesn't, yeah. And one thing that I've learned from someone I spoke to another podcaster just as a chat, Make It Sound is her name, and she mentioned she had an out of office that was saying something about replying with intention, but in her own time. And I adopted the same thing, because I felt like that's so important. Sometimes I felt a little bit pressured. Oh, I have to reply to clients right away. I don't want them to feel neglected because I've moved and I'm now 24 hours, whatever, in a different time zone. And I don't think they did. It's probably something more than I imagined. But anyway, I just wanted to make it clear. And I had that out of office, and that that made me feel better. And I think it also set the expectation that I'm not on my email all day, replying emails all the time. And the work that I do is generally, I guess no one's waiting to hear from me all the time, like you are when you're in a 9-to-5 job. Like, you're probably a little bit more espoused to your email. Whereas my work is not like that. And I was coming with that mindset in this business still. I kind of had a little bit of that. So it was good having that out of office to kind of just set expectations and communicate that I work strange hours, and I won't reply immediately, because it's just doesn't work for me in the business.
And so I received that email just recently when we were communicating about something.
Yeah.
And I really liked it, because I'm like what you said, I think I'm still reactive, not proactive, if that makes sense, when emails come through.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've got to reply straight away. But often if I do, I'm like, I think about it later, I should have said this. Or when you have more time to think about it, I should have, whatever the thing is, but you've had a few minutes, or probably an hour or two to kind of sit on it. And you're like, I forgot to say blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, Danielle. Yes. I'm like, yes, I feel like this is my strategy as well. Not that I always apply it, but I feel like sitting with something, whether you write something or reply to something, it's the best thing that you can do. I feel like just walk away from it. Okay, you've seen what you have, what the request is or whatever, just let it kind of simmer. So there is also this, I think it's called the Zeigarnik effect. It's so basically your work, let's say you start working on a problem, and then you drop it for a little bit, you do something else, your brain is still working on it, even though you have no awareness of it. And then it progresses it without you even, thinking about it consciously. And then you come back to it. And like you said, that the thing that you said happens, it's like, I have these other things to say now. And I have another solution that might work better, or whatever it is. So I guess it's a type of productive procrastination, or whatever you want to call it, but just like
I like
let
that,
your brain work on it. Yeah,
it's so true. I like that. I'm going to use that. But I also like the idea of having that in the email, like actually having those expectations on the other end, I guess, known.
Yes, absolutely. Because that's what's hard. If you don't communicate it, you might imagine. People might not have expectations from you, but who knows? Like, you imagine. I feel like for a little while, when I moved, I was so worried about this. Oh, is the client, have I forgotten anything? Is the client? So I had the phone in the bedroom with me at night, and I would, if I couldn't sleep or something, I would check my phone. And I thought, this is not, I was so I was just so wired. Imagine like checking in. That's not a good idea. But for a little while I did that, and then it was clearly not working. It had me on all the time. So that's when I implemented this out of office, and well, not another office, but I guess an autoresponder. And also I don't take my phone in the bedroom anymore at all.
Yes, I'm a big believer in not doing that too. Yeah, it stays on my kitchen bench all night. One thing I did want to ask you was how you kind of made the decision to start your own business. I know you were freelancing for a little while. How did the kind of decision-making process start, and how long ago was that?
So how many years now? 4.5. About 4.5 years, which is how old my daughter is. And I'm sure a lot of women, and she will shine or beyond, will relate to that decision you make when you have a child. I mean, some of it is probably logistics, because you need more time, you need different time, you need flexibility, etc. But I think it was more than that for me. It was like a mindset shift. It was like, I've been wanting to do this thing all my life. I've been wanting to write. And what am I doing not doing it? How can I raise a child and what am I going to tell her? Oh, mommy wanted to do this thing, but she's never done it because, and I didn't have a reason. And I just felt like, what kind of role model can I be for her? If I don't just try this thing, at least try it, fail, but try. So I had a lot of energy. I think it was also probably part of me was kind of a self-preservation, because like there was like you transition to a mother identity or a new identity, you shift. And then I was also trying to hold on, hang on, I've got all these other things in my brain that I need to, my writing is important, my work is important. But I knew that work had to look somehow differently. So I started doing something while I was still on maternity leave. And before that, I had done I had done writing courses all my life, but never really did anything with them. And I had done a freelance feature writing, so journalism course. And I think I had probably tried pitching some articles, but wasn't successful. And I just thought like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And then I started blogging. I was doing a slow fashion blog for a little while I was at home on maternity leave. And then I got a writing partner who was kind of in the same life stage as me. And we started pushing each other in a sense, like I guess motivating, and we started pitching together, well, separately but together. And I started getting some commissions, small ones, but obviously it wasn't enough to kind of move, okay, I'm going to do this from now on. And one of my writing coaches said, why don't you just do 1 or 2 pitches at a time to like newspapers or magazines, and then try to make a living out of writing in another way. She was suggesting content at the time, and that's how I started. But I very quickly left that behind, because it wasn't for me. So I feel like it wasn't the right. And then I discovered copywriting. I don't know, I think accidentally. Really, it was probably people that I previously worked with asked me to write website copy or something like that. So then I returned to my job part-time, and I still kept my business going for 2 days. But I was so enamored with it. I couldn't wait to leave my job altogether and just do this. So I started doing more and more copywriting, and now just trying to find a balance between journalism and I guess curiosity fueled pieces, because that's where my writing is about. I guess when I'm curious about a lot of things, and then I want to write about them and pitch, and then I also want to work with interesting people that bring those ideas to me, and then I have to write copy for them. So it's just, I guess it's like curiosity is the theme. Yes. And I just explore it in different ways. And I really like that. I'm sorry, this is a really long answer, but I like that. No,
that's all right. That's what podcasts are all about, long answers.
Yes. The balance that I'm kind of finding now between this freelance journalism, if you want to call it that, and copy. So I feel like I'm in a sweet spot now. I feel like it's feeling really good.
That's awesome. I love how you actually had the thought process of you wanted to be a role model for your daughter. Because I think when I look at kind of my own journey, I don't think it started from that. I think that's come later, and I'm like really proud of what I'm doing because of that. But it wasn't something that I consciously thought about at the beginning of my journey, if that makes sense.
No, it does. I think like probably for a lot of people, I don't know why it was that for me. I was probably a niche that I had for a while, and then suddenly this, becoming my mother is like, what am I doing? I don't know. It just became really obvious to me, and it also gave me a lot of drive, which I didn't think I was driven before. So it was surprising, and I had to kind of go with it, because you don't get those chances very often, as in like you don't often have that level of energy. But so you feel like that, now you realize that this kind of means a lot more than flexibility for you as well.
That's right. I think in time it's kind of become when you're kind of looking at how the world is progressing, with gender equality and things like that, and though it's a slow progression, it's like, well, how does that start at home? How do we give our kids the vision of this is how it could be, and these are the steps to get there? So it wasn't something that maybe it was less, because I've been working for myself for now, she will shine 7 years old, but I've been working for myself for about 15 years. And so there wasn't much discussion about it back then.
Yeah.
Whereas now there's a lot of open discussion, which is great. It's bringing a lot of attention to it. So, yeah. But one thing I wanted to just touch on something, because you used the word that when you were talking about that, you used the word that you weren't technically, you didn't think you were a driven person. But then this came along and suddenly you were really motivated to do it. And I wonder if that's because when people think, oh, you're very driven and you're, very motivated and very passionate, you kind of think about, like the stereotypical entrepreneur who's like out there and aiming for a 6-figure business and, marketing this amazing course for 6 figures and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's not who you identified with, do you think?
Yeah, I think, yeah. I don't know if, I think it's what drives you, what drives people is different. And sometimes you might, like that's probably what was happening to me. I thought that I wasn't driven because I didn't see myself maybe as achieving those things, but also kind of working hard for those things. They were not what motivated me.
Yeah, that's not what you wanted.
Yes, but I felt probably thought I didn't know what I wanted. What happened, I think, in my work for like 15 years or however long, I can't remember now, I worked in the university sector in communications, and it was great and everything, great teams and everything, but the work didn't fuel me, it just didn't work for me. And we did this I forgot what it's called, but they had a coach in, and we did some profiles. I can't remember what the test was, and I identified that I was low on drive, but I knew this already. Like it was like one of my weaknesses or something like that, or maybe I had spotted it and I said to the coach, I feel like I have a problem because I don't feel driven, because I guess I saw other people, like you're saying. I was looking at people that kind of progressed and applied to be a manager and whatever, and leadership positions, and I feel like, well, I'm just not. I can't do that. I'm not like that.
Yeah, you haven't found your thing yet.
Yes, exactly. And the coach said exactly the same thing. What things do you do that you're passionate? Whatever. I can't remember how the discussion went because it was many years ago. But basically, she explained to me, this is not what motivates you. When you are motivated, you are driven. You just need to follow the things that motivate you. And I think I didn't know how to step out of that for a very long time after that conversation. But obviously it found me eventually.
Yeah,
the thing found me, and I.
That's right. Yes. It's like you opened a little can of worms, and then suddenly it showed itself.
Yes, and I think the more it's like, I don't know, motivation begets motivation or whatever.
Yeah,
it's like the more you kind of fuel it, the more you get it, and the drive kind of rises.
Yeah. Did you have any thoughts? Because I started my business, but I had never wanted to start my own business. As in, I started it out of a need for flexibility and things like that around my family. But as a young person or as a university student, I never pictured myself running my own business. Did you ever think that you would?
No, gosh, no. I mean, I didn't have any role models or examples around me. That's another thing. Running a business, it just felt like so out of character for someone like me. I don't know why, I guess I didn't, the traits that I was seeing someone who would run a business were very different from the traits I perceived about myself. So it's like, even now, even to this day, it's like still redefining what that means to me and kind of coming to terms that I am that kind of person that starts a business. But yeah, probably like, did you have many role models around you? Like, was that part of like why you didn't picture yourself?
No, none of my immediate family ran their own businesses. My parents didn't run their own businesses, but I did have like uncles who had businesses, but I just never, like the thought, it wasn't even like a conscious decision. It was the thought never crossed my mind. I guess maybe in high school at the time, maybe different now in high schools, but at the time, like the process was you work hard in high school, you get into the uni degree that you want to get into, and then you get a job. Like that was all. Absolutely. There's a 3 steps. Once we've done that, see you later, you're on your way kind of thing.
Exactly.
And I expected my career. So as you know, I was a designer before. I expected my career to be my lifelong career. And I expected to be working for someone else that whole time. Like I didn't think that I could even do that for myself.
I definitely relate to that. Yeah, absolutely. It's such a huge shift, isn't it? And it takes a lot of courage. And I reckon that's what kind of I don't know, it kind of generates a different kind of self-confidence when you take that step. And it might not be fully conscious, because I feel like a lot of us started freelancers. No, we don't have a business, we're just freelancers. But then it's like, no, you actually do have a business.
Yes,
And, you know,
yes.
you just find yourself, oh, how did this happen? Okay. Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's kind of circumstance. Well, it is circumstance in my situation, but it's kind of like circumstance kind of starts the ball rolling, and then it kind of starts moving a bit quicker, and you're like, hang on a minute, I could do this. And I guess, like you said, taking that first step does take that courage, and there's a lot of there's a lot of personal development that goes along with running your own business, which I had no idea about. I just thought, just going to run a business around my kids.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, the personal development. I think that's one of my favorite things about running a business. I feel like it's constant life university, like running a business, because you're constantly challenged in ways that you're not. I mean, there's nothing wrong. Of course, it's great being employed as well. And for some people, it works better than for others. But I feel like I've done so much learning about myself in particular since I started this. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's constant re-understanding myself and my reactions, and how do I want to grow, in which direction, and not just in terms of, I guess, skills and what do I want to learn, but I guess my reactions and like my personality and everything. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing the amount of growth, like personal growth, that kind of accompanies. I know, I think I've spoken about it before. It's kind of like, you know, we struggle to achieve this goal, and then we get there, and then we have, okay, this is good. But we go through the growth. As the business grows, we go through that growth ourselves. Like, okay, getting to that goal means I have to do X, Y, and Z. I might have to put myself out there in a way I've never done before. I might have to have difficult conversations that I've never had before. And so you kind of get to that step, and then you get there and it's all rosy, and then you're like, hang on a minute, I want to go over there now. I want to get to that step. And it's like you go through the process again.
100%. Yes. Yeah. It's, yeah. I mean, I want to say it's enjoyable, but it's not always enjoyable. But it's still like, it's like what I said at the start of our conversation. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Like, it's really hard, you know, going through this, moving countries. It's same with running a business. Like, it's challenging every day in different ways, and you have to adapt and you have to be agile. But it's it's really challenging, but it's so interesting, and it's so, I feel privileged to have the opportunity to do this, to learn in this way.
And I'm wondering, have you like passed on your love for reading to your daughter? Is she?
Oh gosh, I hope so. My gosh. Oh, it's like, it would be heartbreaking. I mean, you know, she's only 4.5, so we read every night. And I noticed her also doing storytelling on her own as well. So she would just pick up a book. Obviously, she can't read, but she would just tell the story or reimagine it in her own way, which really fills me with gladness.
I'm just getting all warm and fuzzies with that one too.
Yes. I know, but of course I can't. I mean, and I'm also kind of resisting pushing it on her in any way. I mean, at this stage, she's really interested in stories, which is lovely. I mean, it's probably typical to being a 4.5-year-old. But we'll see how it goes. Like, I don't, you know, it's something that she has to, because I feel like both reading and writing are things that you have to discover yourselves. If someone pushes them onto you, it's not going to be a love. So, like with most things, isn't it? You have to find them yourself. So
yeah,
hopefully she does.
It's true. My kids are now almost 13, 12 and 9. And my son, he's just started year 7. He came home the other day and he goes, Mum, I joined the book club. Oh, I was so excited because I used to be in the book club. And they've got some creative writing workshop coming. Goes, Mum, I signed up for the creative writing workshop. This is, and I'm trying to kind of, you know.
Whatever, good for you.
That's great. Yeah, fantastic. But there's the thing is, like, because I was always the kid with my head stuck in a book. And I just think now I don't do as, you know, the creative writing I don't do now, but I kind of do it for work purposes. And I think it has really helped so much in the way I communicate and in the way I have ideas and all these sorts of things that I contribute to this love of books and this love of knowledge that you see passed on. And it's the most beautiful thing to see your kids then discover that again on their own.
I agree. Gosh, it's beautiful. And I look forward to when Dahlia is your kid's age to see how she picks up stories and writing and anything, if she does, hopefully. But it's a beautiful thing to pass on genetically.
Plant the seed and then sit back and watch it bloom, as I say.
Hopefully, yes.
Beautiful.
Hopefully.
Thank you so much for your time this morning. Well, it's morning here, Antoanela, but it's quite late at night where you are.
Yes. Oh, Danielle, this was a fantastic way to bookmark the day, to end the day for me. So it was a lovely chat. It was I miss Australian conversations in particular. So I really appreciate the chat and the time.
Oh, I'm always available. But next time we're going to have to record our conversation.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Antoanela, and thank you to everybody for joining us today. We will see you next time on the She Will Shine podcast.
Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode of the She Will Shine podcast, we invite you to check out shewillshine.com.au. She Will Shine is the essential support network you need to grow a thriving, meaningful business. We can help you grow your network, connect and develop genuine relationships, be supported and support others in building and growing a successful business on your terms. Say goodbye to working alone and become a member at shewillshine.com.au.